Then I would like to call the Planning Board meeting of December 20th, 2022 to order at 7:03 PM. If we would all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
All right. Our first order of business this evening is a minor modification for Jellystone Park, Cranberry Acres, 20 Shoestring Road. Minor modification to Water Park, discussion and possible vote. I see we've received confirmation from Fuss & O'Neill that only 9,731 square feet will be rendered impervious, so there's no need for the requirement of a special permit in regards to this particular project. Is there anything you want to add, or?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Do you have any questions for the applicants? The applicant?
Not me. Nope, I'm all set.
I'm good.
All right. I know you're itching at the bit, and we've already gone through the majority of this. So the board will accept a motion to approve the minor modification to Jellystone Park, Cranberry Acres, 20 Shoestring Road.
So moved?
To
approve?
To approve. Motion made by Mr. Gatsky to approve the minor modification to Jellystone Park, Cranberry Acres. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Dion. Now typically we would have a vote and discussion and then vote and work on the draft, but we've had the draft provided to us, and I expect everybody's had an opportunity to read it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I just want to point out that in the name of the application, name of the decision, and reference several places in the decision, it says campers only water park.
Yes, that was.
So there are hours of operation that were included. There are the campers only as well.
And hours of operation, it'll be over before dark is what I understand. There's no lighting. And, all right. And we discussed, I know Andy, and I thought we had received confirmation from the building official in regards to Fuss & O'Neill's concerns.
We did. I think if you look at the top of page 2 pertaining to CZBL, Carver Zoning Board 230. Building commissioners have any concerns with placement of the building in regards to causing fire, section 2331, nor any concerns with emergency access, section 2332. And Fuss & O'Neill doesn't have any concerns about pedestrian access around the existing buildings and proposed buildings. There was one waiver for the windows in the mechanical building.
I don't know that anybody had any concerns because of the nature of the building or the siting of it, that was an issue, but it's open for discussion right now. And
The waiver was for the 15%?
windows and bump outs.
Yeah.
And you said the hours of operation and the limitations on visitors is,
They're in the special permit, but I'm going to paste them into this.
okay,
as
that's
well,
fine, yep.
Just to assure. I thought I plugged them in there.
And the other waiver is in here also for multiple principal structures, but again, that was approved prior to us taking on the site plan. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. Congratulations. Yeah, you guys did a great job putting it together. Thank you very much. We will add those revisions into the draft decision, and we will get that signed for you as soon as possible. Because I know you guys want to be done by springtime, right? Ready to open?
Yep.
All right.
Are we signing these or a Mylar?
I'm gonna plug in the hours of operation as well as the motion, because I missed that motion, so I usually plug them in there. So I'll have it dressed up for you before I get to sleep tonight, because tomorrow's another day and other things will be happening. I'm sure. So,
All right. Our next order of business is a public hearing continued for Priolo Concrete Forms, Inc., requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 5300 and 4341 of the Carver zoning bylaw, 04th Street in Carver, Mass., Assessors Map 49, Lot 62-7-R, for the construction of a 7,400 square foot building and associated driveway, parking areas, and utilities. The proposed use is a craftsman tradesman building. There will be 28,237 square feet of impervious area in a general business zoning district. All right. He had no further information. Did he request a continuance, or?
Mr. Priol was
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. No, I didn't see you. I think your shirt might have blended into the background there. All right. Anything further you'd like to add?
I didn't know everything.
All right. This special permit is in regards to the 10,000 square feet. $4,300.
I did have one question, though. On the special permit, is there an appeal period on that, or is it just on the site plan?
No, there's an appeal for every.
There's an appeal period for special permits.
Yeah.
There's no appeal for site plans.
Also on the site plan, okay.
And this is a special permit.
Yes, special permit.
And just, while I'm speaking, well, maybe being recognized by the chair.
Please.
Ms. Sordello is not here this evening, and so if the chair so wishes to do so, he can recognize the associate member as a voting member for the special permit.
It would be my pleasure to recognize Mr. Williams.
I don't have any of that paperwork.
What are you missing?
Well, Priolo's paperwork, I don't have any of it. Or was it?
No, there wasn't anything included in the book. This is something that I brought from
Oh,
home.
What?
okay.
No.
The only thing I got is.
Oh, we have the list of town meeting
That's it, that's all I got is that.
and the
I had
Kelly
that in
stuff.
there, I don't really know what that is.
All right, and this is a special permit to protect the public health, safety, and welfare by preserving the quality of ground and surface water.
that not get in there?
Under 4341, any uses where more than 10,000 square feet of any lot would be rendered impervious. All right, seeing, no.
John, would you like mine?
Oh, I have one.
Oh,
I'm all set.
Rich?
Mr. Bott just gave me one.
okay.
Thank you, Kev.
Go ahead, not saying it because I thought I checked the books twice.
Is this the one that you emailed out, correct?
Correct.
Oh, from the prior meeting?
Yeah. For once, I had an opportunity to get home and print stuff out.
And so we try to save you printer cartridges by having them ready for you. Books.
All right, seeing no further information to be provided, the board will accept a motion to approve the special permit 40.
We're gonna close the public hearing?
Very good, sir. I've done that once before, thank you.
Hey, before you close, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
I don't see any I don't know if you discussed this, not here, but is there any discussion on what went into the decision?
We can't discuss anything until a motion has been made and, or we close, if we close the public hearing, we can go into deliberations prior to a
Okay, so
vote.
the information on both sides, the tractor trailers or not, is gonna be in front of everybody to vote on it?
Well, a no motion has been made in regards to it. I see that a request has been made in here to change the conditions as set in the site permit, which was a site plan which was approved. And this is for section 4300 groundwater protection and 10,000 square feet of impervious surface. So I would expect that the approved conditions would be the same.
Okay, well,
But-
when I talked to you last meeting,
You asked a question,
I
yeah?
asked the question, and my exact answer was, that all the information we put in front of everybody.
And that's what's going to happen this evening.
Okay, and so you'd have the two decisions, because you have a decision now, a site plan decision excluding tractor trailers. That's the decision he's wrote, and he's had both of them in front of his last meeting. So if there's a vote on the special permit, I asked you, is that gonna be brought up? Is gonna vote on it both ways? And does the special permit override the site plan? And you said, yes, it would, and it would have to be changed in the site plan. Is that correct?
That's not entirely correct, but the site plan's been approved, and I said it would be open for discussion once a motion is made in regards to that and the conditions.
If it goes back in your exact words, is that we'd have to amend the site plan to,
We would have to, if the conditions were to change, then it would be up to the board to amend the site plan in regards to
I
that.
think we're putting the cart in front of the horse, because the special permit was supposed to be first,
Well, it was supposed to be all done at the same time.
right?
So the site plan review and the special permit were supposed to all be handled at the same time.
Right?
But that wasn't the case, and we've separated them.
Okay.
And now the site plan's been approved, and we're looking to approve the special permit.
Okay, then is it open for discussion on this special permit about?
Once a motion is made, the conditions in regards to your special permit will be opened up for discussion. Yes.
Okay, and is there conditions in the special permit to allow tractor trailers on the site?
The special permit is for 10,000 square feet, and we haven't established any conditions in regards to it. But I would expect that, yes, it will come under discussion, because I would expect that the same conditions that were approved for the site plan would be approved for the special permit.
Well, they're the wrong conditions, because you had two in front of them and they didn't get voted on.
I don't understand what you're saying. That we approved the site plan by a majority vote of the board.
In front of you, and the other one didn't even get opened up to discuss before you voted on it. And then you voted on that one, approved it.
What's,
Then you had me back here again for another vote on one that was changed, so I don't really understand what's going on.
Mr. Chair,
please,
that was because it was added afterwards.
what's that?
After we closed the public hearing on that, so no new evidence could be added in at that time.
Right, but under the special permit, we had the opportunity to go back and review that. That was, but your question is, I don't think Mr. Dion understand what your question was. I didn't understand what your question was.
My question is, we've been going back and forth these last few meetings over the wording in the special permit, not the special permit, the site plan review. Okay, so, and I know when we had that meeting at the police station, you said two in front of you, and you said one, allow them to tractor trailers, because Mr. Bott rewrote it, because I went in and said this was supposed to be in there, and he said, well, it was written this way because the one next door, whatever. And then last meeting, like I said, I know what was said and how we said it, because I kept asking the question, because I don't know what we're actually doing. I mean, I don't agree, my whole sticking point's been the tractor trailers, nothing else. We've given you guys everything you want. So, I mean, the deliveries has been my sticking point from the beginning. So, on this special permit, your exact words were, yes, that'll be brought up for discussion. And I says, well, does that override, you can look in the tape too.
Yeah,
Does that
I will.
override the order of conditions you did on the site plan review? You said, yes, it would have to be amended, so.
It would have to be amended
Okay.
if it were to be overridden.
Okay,
But right now, the site plan has been approved with the conditions as discussed and approved by the board.
okay,
And now we're on to the special permit, and now we'll make a motion in regards to the special permit, and then we will open it up for discussion after the public hearing is closed.
okay. And the special permit that we have in front of us right now, when we discussed it last time, 85% of our conversation right now was about truck traffic and this and that, so it being the fact that it was just over impervious material and parking lot, I'm just saying, this sounds to me like you're reading off the thing that we're just voting on it because it's over the 10,000 square feet. It's still a special permit covering everything, right?
The special permit, no, the special permit covers 10,000 square feet of impervious ground.
That's one aspect of it, but if you went for special permit, you'd be limiting us to whatever, if we were gonna go for special permit at the same time or first or whatever, that would be part of the truck traffic, everything, anything that affects the
Yes.
neighbors would be in that.
Right? And I expect when the motion's made that it will be to approve with the conditions as already approved by the board, and then it will be opened up for discussion. But I don't know because a motion hasn't been made,
Well, we got to close the public hearing.
and we have to close
I'm
the
just trying to
public hearing.
understand how the process is gonna work.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, I got it covered.
All right. Any further questions? Seeing none, the chair will accept a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing for 04 Street.
A motion made by Mr. Gatsky. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Dion. Excellent. All right. The board will accept the motion to approve the special permit with the conditions as previously approved by the board. Yes, thank you, Mr. Williams. Do we have any further discussion on closing of the public hearing? Seeing none. Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says aye.
Mr.
Don Gasky says aye.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Special permit, so, and I've already,
It's closing a public hearing.
that's okay.
400 is a perfect vote. 400 is a perfect vote to close the public hearing.
Okay, so when it comes to public hearings, it's specifically limited to the vote in regards to the special permit. Okay.
That's how I read it for.
That's fine, nope. All right, the board will, and Mr. Shea says yes to closing the public hearing, in case I didn't say that. The board will accept a motion to approve the application of Prolio concrete forms for 0 Forest Street for a single craftsman tradesman building, with the conditions as previously approved by the board.
I will make that said motion approving for Priolo.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gatsky. Now it's open for discussion. All right,
So if I may,
please.
so I put together a draft decision, and in addition to a memo. In my memo that I sent to the board, I noted that in the discussions that we have had, in the testimony from the consulting engineer and information from the fire department, no one in a technical review has raised a concern about 18-wheelers entering the site and crossing the center line. With that said, I have amended the decision with those conditions. Number 8, condition number 8 previously said truck deliveries shall be limited to box trucks, and trucks shall be prohibited from stopping, standing, or unloading on Forest Street. That's condition 8 on page 5. I struck out truck deliveries shall be limited to box trucks because there hasn't been any testimony citing a hazard from any of the folks, the technical folks who review that. Typically, when we make a condition, that condition is related to the findings of the board. So my recommendation would be to strike delivery shall be limited to box trucks. In addition, I also noted in my memo that because the previous site plan approval has this condition in it, if the board so votes this special permit to allow those, then we go back and amend that special permit as well, so there's not this confusion between the special permit saying one thing and the site plan saying another thing. So with the information provided by the folks who review these things, Fuss and O'Neill, Fire Department, DPW, no one referenced a concern about these vehicles crossing the center line, because as I pointed out in my memo, this is an almost daily occurrence in likely every town, every day in New England, that a vehicle passes the center line. And I wondered, well, is there something from the perspective of public safety from these folks that have a concern about that, and none was raised. So we want to make sure that the conditions we impose are been verified by the people who review these things and provide information to the board. So my recommendation would be, based on no information from anybody who says this is an issue, that those conditions be struck from the decision and allow those vehicles to move around. I referenced in a conversation you and I had about a condition in Kingston with El Knife, owned by the Sheehan family. And in that case, they were changing the hours of operation for recycling. And so the planning board put a condition in that said trucks won't be allowed to go on this street to this El Knife because school buses are in this residential neighborhood. It's a very odd thing that you can't get to this industrial site without driving through a residential neighborhood. That condition was appealed and remanded, and usually get remanded back to the board to make a decision. In this case, the judge struck things out and said you cannot limit that commercial traffic. That was an infringement, in his opinion, of commerce, and the board is not in the position to regulate commerce as regulated by, I don't know, the ICC, whoever regulates the truck travel. In the case of the property next door at 94th Street, we had a narrower lot, and I think that's the reason why that condition was placed in here. But here we have a fully conforming lot that has a plan that shows an 18-wheeler can enter the site, navigate the site, and leave the site. and no one has expressed a concern about it from a technical standpoint, I don't recommend it as a condition in the board's decision.
Thank you. My concerns were the stopping sight distance in regards to coming around the corner of Forest Street and on a downhill grade, and the ability to stop in regards to safety. And so I took the time to go into the AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway,
People call it ASHTO for short.
and their recommended stopping distance, sight distance for 31 miles per hour was 65 meters or 213 linear feet. They've revised it down to 200 because worst-case distance vehicle driver needs to see to prevent colliding with something in the roadway. Insufficient sight distances can adversely affect the safety or operations of a roadway. Now, the intersection sight distances are considerably higher at 30 miles an hour, at 335 feet. And a stopping sight distance of 200 feet is their recommended amount, and there's no way that there's 200 feet from the top of that hill where there's a sign, and even in my truck, which is higher than the recommended height to measure this by the AASHTO, my truck is considerably higher. It's maybe 125 feet. And then you're dealing with a vehicle coming up in motion on the other side of the road. Also, anything coming from the south is either going to have to make an acute turn onto Forest Street, or it's going to have to come up the back road of Linton Street. Now, if it comes up Linton Street and around the corner and has to stop, slow down, or turn into this site, it's going to create a very severe hazard for drivers on Forest Street. And that's not to mention the large size of the subdivisions in the area, and amount of residences, and the primary egress for both of those. Our special permit review, special permits may be issued for uses which are in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the ordinance or bylaw, and shall be subject to general or specific provisions set forth herein, and such permits may also impose conditions, safeguards, and limitations on time or use. Also in 3123, for site plan review of a use or structure available by right, the planning board shall review and act upon plan with such conditions as may be deemed appropriate. Now, under 3160, performance standards, which starts off speaking about adequate access for fire and service equipment, new building construction or other site alteration shall be designed so as to maximize pedestrian and vehicular safety both on the site and egressing from it. Under 3170, it says the planning board may impose reasonable conditions, including performance guarantees. 3162, again, it requires the board to maximize pedestrian and vehicular safety on the site and egressing from it. The board has previously found that the allowance of 18-wheelers to access and egress from the site is a danger to pedestrians as well as vehicular traffic on the road, specifically residents living on and off Forest Street. Now, you mentioned arbitrary and capricious, which is a willful and unreasonable action without consideration or in disregard of facts or law. But we've previously prohibited 18-wheelers from the property directly next door based on safety concerns raised by this board.
So, may I?
Please.
So outside of your reading of ASHTO after the hearing closed and no recommendation from any of the technical folks who approved this, kudos to you for reading it, but it seems like if that was an issue, it would have been raised earlier.
It was raised
And it would
earlier.
have been raised by our consulting engineer, by our fire department, and everyone has said
Well,
the applicant has met our conditions. There isn't an identified concern from those folks who we pay and trust to make these reviews for us. So I stick to what I said. In the absence of someone reviewing this that says this is an issue, I think you're on a very thin branch trying to impose a condition that wasn't identified by any of the technical review for this project, and it's been months.
it might not have been identified by technical review, but it was brought up in the site plan approval. Not only that, it's in the decision here in regards to the concerns which were in here. Forest Street is heavily traveled by pedestrians, bicyclists, and motor vehicles accessing many necessary goods and services. Forest Street is lacking sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, and turning lanes. Further concerns were raised on the proximity to and adequacy of intersecting streets, wellhead protection area, congestion, vehicle crossover, and sufficiency of line-of-sight issues. And the board has worked to mitigate and minimize visual intrusion, environmental, health, safety, and noise disturbances while maximizing pedestrian and vehicular safety regarding site conditions through an issuance of an appropriate order of conditions. It has been brought up previously, and it's currently in the approved decision, and it's also in the draft decision. There's not sufficient room to provide a vehicle to stop safely in the event of an emergency in regards to being able to reasonably see any obstruction on the road. I don't believe that that's true, and I can't approve it if it means putting people in danger. I know for a fact, my son and his friends travel that street regularly in order to go down to Quickies, Cumberland Farms, McDonald's, and the various other places down there, but there is a substantial, at least two substantial subdivisions up that road, including Egypt Road and the Great Meadow area, along with all the residences on that street and Fuller Street. And this is their egress from that area. This is their primary point of reaching Route 44 and necessary goods and services. I also believe that we prohibited tractor trailers on the site immediately next door for safety reasons, including the proximity of intersecting streets and pedestrian and vehicular traffic.
And as I pointed out in my memo, everyone who lives on High Street, Plymouth Street, Lillian Way, Forest Street, and numerous other roads are in a very similar circumstance. Commercial
Not the
zoning
same
in
road.
Carver is typically one lot deep.
It's
And
not
all
the,
these areas have areas behind them that are screened to the conditions of the plan. Vehicles travel, commercial vehicles travel on these roads all the time.
I
And
believe
in the
you.
absence of someone who is technically qualified to cite, this is an issue, this is a concern, no one cited that. Not
Well, that's-
police, not
that's-
fire, not
well,
your consulting engineer.
If they were the be-all, end-all, then there would be no need for planning the board. The planning board has a right to make discretion. We're local people. We sit on this board because we're familiar with the various sites. And Plymouth Street and High Street might possibly have the same conditions on them that I'm not familiar with, but this one in particular has a blind corner on a downhill slope, and it's none of the intersections, and there's, 1, 2, 3 intersections there are designed for tractor trailers, which could be overlooked if the safety issues weren't such a consideration. No, nobody coming over the top of Forest Street in an 18-wheeler and stopping is in any way safe. Anybody coming from the south, for instance, Cape Cod Express, or anybody traveling north on 58 to make that turn onto Forest Street is going to have to make a very hard, acute turn in regards to that. And no evidence has been provided by any experts or the applicant himself to belay my concerns in regards to this. And I will not change my vote because I feel that safety is the overwhelming issue in regards to this. I recall that there was an impact report presented also, which is listed in the draft decision here, and nowhere does it mention tractor trailers. As a matter of fact, I believe it's expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 vehicles in the morning and 7 vehicles at night, roughly 14 vehicles entering and exit the site as a craftsman tradesman building.
At peak time, I think that 7 is likely a peak hour. But anyhow,
But
so my recommendation is vote conditions that are reasonable conditions that have been vetted and identified by the people who advise the board. That's all I have to say.
all right.
So what is this here? Is that,
That is something that Fuss and O'Neill provided for us, that basically had what those design considerations were.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a couple meetings ago.
yeah.
And that's in
It's showing an intersection. There is no intersection where they have to make the turn in.
Well,
So
that
there
would
is
be-
less room.
Well, they
So
have
if
to
you
make,
turn on Forest Street, then you gotta try to turn into his property. There is no intersection in front of his property. So therefore, it's really restricting a turn into his property.
Yeah, there aren't intersections at every driveway. There's not an intersection at
Well, what I'm saying,
Carver High School.
It's showing intersections on this for an 18.
Well, Andy Glenn recognized that the DOT regulations in response to crossing the yellow line or backing up were specific to intersections, and that's why he provided that chart.
So I have concerns. I mean, one is, from the beginning, I said no 18-wheelers. I mean, it's reflecting to the property next door. The other thing is, I feel there's a safety concern there with those trucks pulling in and out, and especially if you have 3 trucks show up at once. I don't think he has significant room in there, if he has everything full with tenants in there, to put 3 trailer trucks in there at one time. And I think that's gonna cause a big issue in there. And I believe it definitely is a safety issue.
Now, all right. Now, Mr. Priolo has every right to appeal this, whether it's approved or denied, and every right to appeal the conditions set in regards to this. He can move ahead with the project if it's approved, and he's welcome to appeal the conditions as previously approved by the board. Now, when we disapproved 18-wheelers at the property next door for safety reasons, I don't seem to remember this being lobbied so hard and any issues in regards to this when we did that.
If I may? Well, it came up the first time, and I wondered about that, so I asked specifically to public safety officials, is there something that sort of is a rule? Is this something that people just turn a blind eye to everywhere? And as I said, just about every day in every town in New England, an 18-wheeler is going to cross the center line making a turn. So do all these places collectively make a blind eye to this sort of issue? And it turns out that it's not. There's a standard for it. As I pointed out before, if you don't have, and if we decide to make this the rule, So how many other?
Excuse me, this is not the rule, this is a condition,
So if we make this
site-specific.
sort of a condition that becomes a regular occurrence, do we decide that any place that is properly zoned, that is sufficient size, that if an 18-wheeler is going to cross that center line, that is not a place that's appropriate for some sort of use? And uses these days don't, 18-wheelers just don't come onto commercial sites, industrial sites. You see the Dunkin' Donuts truck coming into places. You see the 18-wheelers is the default. So
We're not,
if-
we're not dealing with other sites, we're dealing with this specific site and sightline issues and safety issues in regard to this specific site. We are not making a general rule for the town. There's plenty of places in this town that have been priorly approved and it's been allowed. Not only that, but I do believe that one of the comments in the officials' records were that a tractor-trailer truck crossing over the line could be given a ticket, but that's generally not what happens. And no evidence has been provided to this board to show that crossing the center line by a vehicle of this size is in any way safe or even legal.
And to the contrary, nothing has been pointed out that says it isn't safe.
It's
No one has said there's a site distance issue. No one has said this is
That's not
something that
true.
is
The
of
site
great concern to
distance-
you, but
the-
none of the
right.
people who've reviewed this. And I've said it
Well-
before. I'll stop repeating myself. But the board's, it's the board's vote.
The site distance has been previously brought in and discussed quite thoroughly in relation to the safety of this site. So we're at it now that we're approving the special permit or disproving it under section 4300 for rendering 10,000 square feet of impervious surface. Now, if we approve it, Mr. Priolo can go ahead and if he wishes to appeal the decision, then he has avenues to do that. I myself will not approve anything that I feel is inherently unsafe and puts people's health and safety at risk as I feel this does. Nothing was done to address the sightline issues, and nothing's been done to alleviate my concerns over the safety entering and egressing this particular site. And again, under 3162, it specifically says, maximize pedestrian and vehicular safety both on the site and egressing from it. And this is where my concerns lie.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
The site was created to receive this traffic safely. And my concern was that I didn't want the trucks to be parked on Forest Street or outside of the area. So I feel like my concern was met to keep the 18-wheelers off of the street, and the project was created in a way that it can receive this, and it can take it off of the street so that it can be safely done.
All right. Well, what if 3 tractor trailers show up? Then you're still going to end up with people on the street. And what are the guidelines for stopping on the street for unloading and loading? Would that require flagmen, safety officials? None of this has been brought up. This is a craftsman tradesman building. It's not a trucking depot or a warehouse. It's
Exactly, it's not a trucking depot.
It's a
these are for
craftsman
occasional
tradesman building.
Deliveries.
Occasional deliveries. Well, we're not barring anything from being delivered there. We're just barring specifically the vehicle, the tractor trailers, and other arrangements can be made in regards to this.
It said that my concern was keeping it off of the street, and the tractor trailers are going to be kept off of the street. Even if there are 3 delivered, they'll still be able to all park in the area that has been developed to receive that traffic.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I am happy with the wording, that it is taking it off of the street. I wanted to make that clear.
It's my biggest safety concern in regards to this project, and again, there's avenues to appeal it. You can move forward with construction and permitting and can appeal the conditions if he feels it's necessary. If we turn it down, then he's gonna have to appeal it anyways. Then he's gonna have to appeal the entire decision. And then he might not get anything. And then that's where I'm at, because I'd like to see this move forward, but I want to see it move forward in a safe and responsible
that sounded
manner.
threatening.
It wasn't, it shouldn't sound
It
threatening.
sounded threatening. If he wants to receive this,
If he appeals, he's gonna lose everything.
No, I can't.
that is what you just said.
No, that's up to the court to decide. That's not up to me.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, there are avenues for appeal regardless of how this goes. Frankly, I'd like to see this project move forward, but again, safety concerns, and those are my biggest concerns.
I went online to play with the stopping distances, and there's another variable, it's reaction time. And there was a chart, I'm the worst reaction time at my age, and if the truck driver's older than me, it's gonna be slower. If he's younger, it's much quicker. If you want to play reaction time and stopping distance, there are variables besides distance. It's speed, it's the reaction time of the driver was one of the variables. The Carver master plan, I went through that, and it has areas of traffic concern. There were 9 or 10 listed. Forest Street was not one of the areas listed in the master plan as being a concern for traffic.
No, but the Plymouth Street Route 58 intersection is, and it's also the highest,
Plymouth Street 58, that's...
where the Cumberland Farm is. It also has
Yeah, but this is...
It also has the highest accident rate. But you're saying that the intersections, that no intersection in that particular area was identified in the master plan. Well, that one is, and it's identified as the worst intersection in the
But
town
is
of
this where
Carver.
this Forest Street?
No, but that's in the area. But that's outside of this decision. You were talking about reaction times. The AASHTO sets it at 2.5 as the standard for a car. It also says that the stopping distance for a truck doing 20 miles an hour is 125 feet. So you get a large truck coming up the hill, probably not doing 20 miles an hour, but you also have a car coming down the hill, probably doing 30 miles an hour.
And the truck is gonna turn right into the place? So what's that got to do with?
The truck is
car
going to
coming
turn
down?
right into the place, and my concern is, can he make that turn without crossing or impeding other traffic? And I can't see that could be done. And also, if he comes up Linton Street and comes over the top of the hill, he's gonna have to stop or slow on that blind corner to turn into that property. Coming out of that, if he takes a right so that he can head south, then he's gonna go probably down Linton Street, where it more easily joins the flow of traffic. But, you know, these are all things that can and possibly could happen. And those are what I take into my consideration. So I feel I've adequately defended my position, and
Move the question.
we can move the question if there's no further discussion. All right.
Well, I think we just need to specify that the conditions that are outlined in the special permit, line through 4 and 8, whether those should remain or whether they should not remain when we have our vote. So right now, I lined out condition 4, approval of special permit required or more than one, and that's sort of a superfluous at this point because this is a special permit. But condition number 8, I think, is one the board needs to make sure we're clear on, that truck delivery shall be limited to box trucks, and trucks shall be prohibited from stopping or standing or unloading on Forest Street, or trucks shall be prohibited from stopping and standing with no prohibition to box trucks. Let's just make sure we're clear on that when we vote.
Well, as we're approving special permit 4341, I believe that section 4 is moot, and I can't in good conscience approve tractor-trailer trucks on that particular stretch of road. I don't think there's an ability for drivers in general to safely travel that street if there's impediments.
Don't we need a motion then to either, by somebody to add or?
Yeah, let's get a motion if we can on condition 8, just so we're clear on that. So is that motion,
Well, currently the motion is, I believe, to approve the special permit with the,
deliveries limited to box trucks, and trucks shall be prohibited from stopping, standing, or unloading on
With-
Forest Street?
with the conditions as previously approved by the board. So a motion would have to be made to
Well, that could-
add, change, or remove any of the conditions that were previously approved, and I believe they are all listed on page, there's no page number.
I have a
4 and 5.
procedural question.
Sure?
If that's the motion, and if you were opposed to it, you would have to vote the whole motion down, the whole
No.
permit down,
No.
or just number 8?
Yeah, my recommendation is let's have a vote on condition 8.
Okay, that makes.
You can make a motion in regards to any of the conditions listed here.
So we-
So I have a motion on the floor, do I not? And we're discussing it.
Yes, but we're looking to,
So I can make
Oh.
a motion to accept 8 as written. Trucks shall be prohibited from stopping, standing, or unloading on Forest Street.
I believe Mr. Vaught is asking to make a motion within the motion,
Correct.
a
So-
motion within the motion to change section 8 to that which you stated. So
Okay.
you're welcome, the board will accept a motion to edit or otherwise modify the conditions.
And I'll second that.
If you could
That-
repeat your motion, Mr. Robinson.
So the motion I made was to accept the writing on number 8 as trucks shall be prohibited from stopping, standing, or unloading on Forest Street.
To modify that,
To modify
section
that.
8. And it's been seconded by
Seconded by-
Mr. Williams. So now we open it up for discussion. I've already put forward my point of view.
May, I can't see to approve that. We all voted on 94 Forest Street unanimously to not allow 18-wheelers.
We didn't, I didn't.
All right, so it was, all right.
I didn't,
Did you
and
even-
I didn't, and Ellen didn't.
No, the property next door, I think he's.
Next door to-
Oh, I
94.
apologize,
No.
and I didn't vote on that. I
All
don't
right,
believe
so-
I was part of that.
So it was 4-0 that approved that for no 18-wheelers, I believe. And now we're in the property next door, and now we're digging up everything we can to accept 18-wheelers. And from the beginning, I said I would not approve 18-wheelers because I'm sticking to my guns about 94 Forest Street not having 18-wheelers. I'm not gonna change my mind, just,
I appreciate that, and I can agree to disagree with you. But Mr. Bott made the point that it isn't a safety issue where it was voted that an 18-wheeler couldn't go to that site. That site was unable to receive the traffic of an 18-wheeler. Therefore, that's why it was voted as no on accepting 18-wheelers.
That wasn't the case. I brought it
was
up
not
as a
the case,
safety
no.
issue, and it was due to its proximity to intersections and the ability to maneuver at that particular area.
And, you know, the safety on that street, and if you have 3 trailer trucks at once entering that piece of property with all buildings occupied with the parking, I can't see 3 trailer trucks being able to park in there. So I would say no to that. That's where I would go, no.
It seems like you're creating a perfect storm for him in the sense that you're saying that three 18-wheelers are gonna come in at the same time.
I don't know. Worst case scenario. When's it gonna rain?
Worst case scenario,
Worst case scenario.
he's made it
Do you
clear
bring
that
an
he-
umbrella for a rainstorm, or, you know, or a snowstorm? Worst case scenario. I mean, if they say it's gonna, showers, you gonna bring an umbrella, Kevin? No?
The point is that the trucks can be received by that piece of property. They can all be taken off of
So
Forest
can-
Street.
So can't 94 Forest Street if we permitted it.
But again, it's
We're not talking about 94 Forest Street.
It's
We're
also
talking about
egress.
this.
Well, arbitrary and capricious would be to change the rules for one property and not the other when the conditions are, or the reasons that the conditions were set were the same.
So you got a motion and a second? Any discussion?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is to modify the language of condition number 8, to change it from truck deliveries shall be limited to box trucks, to be modified to trucks shall be prohibited from stopping, standing, or unloading on Forest Street. Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says nay.
Mr. Gatsky.
John Gasky says nay.
Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Mr. Williams?
Says aye.
And Mr. Shea says nay. Motion does not pass. Do we have further discussion on the overarching motion to approve the special permit with the conditions as previously approved by the board?
I'll make said motion.
No, it's been made and seconded. It's the over-encompassing motion. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Dion,
So this would be approving.
the motion on the floor is to approve the special permit for the applicant Priolo Concrete for 0 Forest Street with the conditions as previously approved by the board.
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
So I don't understand how I'm supposed to vote on this because I want this to go forward. So am I voting aye?
Well, at this point, absent a supermajority vote, then there's no approval for paving over 10,000 square feet of the property.
That's what I'm voting on right now.
We have to vote.
So I'm gonna vote
10,000
aye.
square feet of the property.
Kevin Robinson votes aye.
Don Williams votes aye.
And Mr. Shea votes aye.
Otherwise,
So that
Thank you
was
very
5-0.
much.
All right. All right, I will clean up the decision, and I'm going to take out the condition number 4.
Okay, so I'm clear on this?
That it was approved.
It was approved, I'm all set with that, how do you appeal it? And I don't, listen, one thing I want you to know,
So,
No, listen, one thing I want-
Stop.
what?
The hearing is closed.
well,
I don't think you're going to do any favors by saying anything else. I'm just trying to help you,
Listen,
all right?
I got my bills for all the engineers that,
I'm Glenn?
review.
Glenn?
I hear you, Tom.
All right.
All right, I'm just gonna go.
All right, good call. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair. I know you
No, it's,
usually.
I get it. It's part of the job, Mr. Bott. Thank you, you're very, assertive there. Probably far
Very
more
astute.
assertive than I would have been. All right, our next order of business is town meeting articles. A discussion on those. We haven't, I see, the first one as listed is to amend Carver zoning bylaw, section 3580, large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installations, and we're still waiting recommendations from the solar bylaw.
Correct,
Solar
this would be a
battery.
placeholder.
Yes.
article.
So we're approving these as placeholders, or?
Yep.
All right. All right, so the board will accept a motion to approve a placeholder for, in order to amend Carver zoning bylaws, section 3580, large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installation. It's currently under review by the,
So are we voting on each one of these articles? Do we
Yeah,
need
I
to-
think it's best-
Do we need to do a placeholder for each one of these articles?
I think it's
or-
best to go through them just to make sure everybody's on the
Yep.
same page.
now currently it's under the Solar Battery Storage Moratorium Committee, who will make recommendations in regards to this one.
I'll make a motion for Article X1 to approve placeholder to amend the Carver zoning bylaw, section 3580, large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installations.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Gatsky, seconded by Mr. Dion. Any discussion in regards to this? No, we're just currently awaiting the recommendations of the Solar Battery Storage Moratorium Committee, and then we would hold a public hearing before it proceeds to town meeting.
You know, the discussion, if I may, we've had is about taking whatever comes out of the moratorium committee, forwarding it to town council for town council to vet, and then it comes to the planning board for those hearings that we anticipate to be in February or March.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. All right, the chair will accept a motion, Article X2, to approve a placeholder to amend Section 2230 of Use Regulation Schedule regarding battery storage, amend Article 6, definitions, and amend the Carver zoning map to identify areas for such use. Again, this is currently under review by the Solar Battery Storage Moratorium Committee, and we are awaiting their recommendations.
Move to approve placeholder for Article X2, amend Section 2230 use regulation schedule regarding battery storage, amend Article 6 definitions, and amend the Carver zoning map to identify areas for such use.
I'll make said motion.
No, motion made by Mr. Gatsky,
I second it.
seconded by Mr. Dion.
No worries.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. The chair will accept a motion to make a placeholder for town meeting for Article X3, Carver zoning bylaw, by adding a new section, 3590, energy storage facility. Again, this is another item that is currently under review by the Solar Battery Storage Moratorium Committee. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion made by Mr. Gatsky to approve the placeholder. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Dion. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
and Mr. Shea says aye.
Do you need roll call votes for these? Can you just do,
We do not.
No, but,
they're not anything special?
no, but, I kind of prefer the roll call vote because at certain times I have to do roll call vote. I mean, as
Just
you've
been
noticed, that
habit.
sometimes things slip my mind, so. The next order of business is to approve a placeholder for Article X5, amend Carver zoning bylaw, Section 2320, table of dimensional requirements, to see if the town will,
Did you do 4?
No, you
That's what he's
misspoke.
doing
Oh.
now.
I thought I heard you say 5.
No, sorry, I changed the page, and again, this is why I do roll call votes. The chair will accept the motion to approve a placeholder for town meeting for Article X4, amend zoning map to correct previous zoning changes not reflected in the current 2015 zoning map.
And I'll be happy to pull the curtain back on that if you like, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
So we got a request a while back from somebody who said, my property is zoned improperly. And as it turns out, we went back and looked at it, and apparently around 2011, when someone reprinted the zoning map, things got changed on the map that were never voted by town meeting.
Oops.
So we're in the process of going back to 2004, and we got a pretty good feeling about what the zoning map looks like, and researching all the town meeting articles, making map amendments to date. This thing with the printer was identified, and someone said, well, they should fix that, but the only way to amend the map is to go to town meeting. So this is essentially a housekeeping article. We're not changing the zoning on anything, we're simply reestablishing the zoning that should be there. by
Now-
looking at the record.
Is the zoning not identified by map and lot number?
Yeah, in some of them they are. So like I said, we're going back for 20 years and looking at any time town meeting had a change to zoning, whether it's creating a new district, and there have been 3 new overlay districts created since then, or any other changes, going back and checking each one of those and then checking at the map and say, here's the change that was made at town meeting, what's up with this parcel? And the ones that have been identified as sort of fallen by the wayside from this engineers, that's why we've gone to the 2004 map as sort of our base to look at those.
And we'll have the ability to look at these on an individual,
That's correct.
yes. So we will have the opportunity to review.
I'll make said motion.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson,
Second.
second by Mr. Gatsky. Do we have further discussion in regards to this?
So are we voting for a placeholder on this one?
A
or is
placeholder.
this as written?
A placeholder, because
No.
Okay.
the article itself will come back and say, to see if the town will vote to amend the map, parcel X, parcel Y,
Right, gotcha.
this to that,
And we,
Okay.
will-
to
Yeah,
correct a previous error.
It'll get into specifics.
Yep.
Okay.
we will get into the specifics of
Yeah,
the
as long as-
changes.
Right, right.
And
Just as long
approve or
as it's not-
disapprove.
Yeah, just want to make sure that it's not going as written. I'm ready.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye. All right. The chair will accept a motion to put a placeholder on the town warrant for Article X5, amend Carver zoning bylaw, Section 2320, table of dimensional requirements, to see if the town will vote to amend 2320, maximum building height to decrease the maximum building height in the Green Business Park zoning district from 65 feet to a maximum building height of 40 feet. This would reverse the change voted in 2022, which raised the height from 40 feet to 60 feet, 5 feet.
And I'll be happy to pull the curtain back on that.
Please.
So this, I got a visit from someone in the town administrator's office that said they'd like to change this bylaw back from 65 feet to 40 feet. However, it's not quite clear who made that request. So I put it on the list just to keep track of it, and also checked with the fire chief for his take on it. And he said he had no objection to changing it from 65 feet to 40 feet. However, it's likely to be a moot change because the Green Business Park has a subdivision plan that they filed basically to rescind the original subdivision and create one large parcel for the entire development, for the entire site. So there's like 6 parcels on it now, and there's an old road right-of-way that was never built. So their rescission plan is to come back and basically erase everything that's on the site and start over with a nice clean site. With an approved subdivision plan, the zoning is grandfathered for 8 years. And Massachusetts general law says the planning board shall approve a subdivision plan. So in this case, these folks are submitting a plan to rescind the previous subdivision. I got an inquiry into town council to ask the question is the rescission of a previous subdivision plan a subdivision plan and qualifying for grandfathering? We haven't heard back from them yet. So whether this is voted or not, it's likely, it's possible that somebody could file a subdivision plan, or an A&R plan for that matter. If they file an A&R plan, the zoning's grandfathered for 3 years. If they file a subdivision plan, the zoning is grandfathered for 8 years from the date of endorsement. So it may be a moot point to go back and reverse a change that just happened at town meeting. So it's on there for discussion, and how the board wants to deal with that is, certainly part of the discussion, but I just want to make sure that because this had some discussion, I wanted to make sure that didn't fall by the wayside.
Right. Is there currently approved subdivision planning? No, there isn't, not under the 65-foot, right? Because that.
Correct.
There were a bunch of articles about the Green Business District that were passed at town meeting, weren't there?
There sure was.
Yes, there were.
And isn't there a move afoot to change them all?
The
Revert
only
them
one
all
I'd
back?
heard, the only one I'd heard anything specific about was this, and like I said, the sort of provenance of it, where it originated from, is a little fuzzy. I know I understand one select person said, as you said, we should get rid of all of them. But for the most part, I don't know that there's been any move by the board, and the board met tonight, and the select board are able to suggest zoning changes as well, so maybe one comes from them. But because it had some discussions amongst various folks in town hall, I wanted to make sure that it was up for discussion while the warrant's still open.
I thought these folks had not entirely cut the cord and run yet.
Well, Hillwood has said they're not pursuing the site. And one of the things with the Hillwood pre-development agreement was that they were willing to give $7 million to the town in various equipment.
Right.
So in
Yeah.
the absence of somebody coming like that, the concern was, well, how do we deal with a 65-foot height building?
Right, we don't have the equipment for it.
Well, I later heard that, well, we don't have the equipment for a 40-foot tall building either. So either way, we don't have the equipment for that as it stands currently. So, and if you've got scalable, if you've got one person who comes in with a 1 million square foot building, they tend to have the ability to make that sort of contribution that has been discussed by Hillwood for $7 million. But if you get 20 people who show up and who all want to make a 65-foot building, chances are not one of those 20 people have the ability and could survive a reasonable condition to say, oh, you're going to have to buy a fire truck for this. That's where a scale comes in for things like that. So,
No, you said Hillwood pulled out because they didn't want this fight, but I thought at the last town meeting, we approved everything they asked for.
well, I didn't say that. I said Hillwood pulled out because of a number of conditions. But in the absence of Hillwood, that pre-development agreement is now moot.
Okay.
So there's no $7 million coming to the town, because Hillwood was the part of that pre-development agreement.
Yeah,
So
they don't
there's
wanna have
still
to
the
remediate
Still the possibility of building 43 different buildings in there by right.
Well, they're gonna,
By special permit, if you have.
yeah, whoever goes in there is gonna have to remediate the PFAS.
Oh.
The contamination, the sites.
Whatever issues
Yeah,
might
sites highly
arise in
contaminated.
regards to this specific site.
All right.
All right.
So anyhow, that's the story on X5.
So the chair will accept a motion to put a placeholder for town meeting for Article X5, amend the Carver zoning bylaw, 2320 table of dimensions to decrease the maximum building height in the Green Business Park from 65 feet to 40.
I'll make said motion.
Motion made by Mr. Dion,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Robinson. Do we have further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion,
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
and Mr. Shea says aye.
400.
The chair will accept a motion to approve a placeholder for town meeting for Article X6. Accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 39, Section 23D, the Mullen Rule, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D in its present form, and amend for boards, committees, or commissions holding adjudicatory hearings in the town, which statute provides that when a public body holds an adjudicatory hearing, any member thereof shall not be disqualified from voting on the matter solely due to that member's absence from no more than a single session of the hearing at which the testimony or other evidence is received, provided that before each such vote, the member shall certify in writing that the member has examined all evidence received at the missed session, which evidence shall include an audio or video recording of the missed session or a transcript thereof.
And
I'll
that
make
language
said
is listed,
motion. Oh.
Verbatim from the 2016 article that did not pass.
All right, motion to accept made by Mr. Robinson,
And, second.
seconded by Mr. Gatsky.
Now, this is a placeholder as well.
No, that's
This is a
actually-
placeholder.
No, that's pretty much the article.
Oh. Well, we'll vote on placeholders tonight, and then we'll schedule a session to discuss the articles in full.
Yeah, this will be part of the hearing.
Yes. All right. The board will accept a motion for a placeholder for town meeting for Article X7. Designate.
You have a vote on X.
Oh, I'm terrible. See, this is why roll call. No further discussion on X6 Mullen Rule.
What are we voting on?
A placeholder for town meeting. We'll hold a public hearing before it, prior to that, though. So it's to approve a placeholder for town meeting for
Article X6.
Article X6 to accept the Mullen Rule.
Vote.
Your vote, you said.
Mr. Dion says nay.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye. Right. Now,
But, who moved and who seconded that?
Mr. Robinson moved, Mr. Gatsky seconded.
Okay, thank you.
the chair will accept the motion to put a placeholder for Article X7 to designate scenic roads to protect street trees and stone walls with the right-of-way per GL Chapter 40, Section 15C, to see if the town of Carver will vote to designate the following roads within the town as scenic roads in order to preserve the natural character and physical appearance of said roads, and to instruct the planning board in exercising its responsibilities hereunder to take into consideration sound planning principles, aesthetic consideration, and preservation of natural resources, as well as public safety when considering these roads, or take any action relative thereto. Now
If I
this,
may?
yes, please.
So this is lifted verbatim from a 2010 town meeting article to create scenic roads that was apparently not voted on previously at town meeting. It was on the warrant. It sort of disappeared. It was Article 36 at one point. It was Article 38 at another point, and the trail kind of went cold. But it was never voted. And as I said before, and we had this discussion with the board, is that scenic roads refer only to street trees and stone walls that are within the road right-of-way. They're not about what you see from someplace else. It's not about how lovely it is. Some people will use it as sort of a marketing tool for tourists to say, Carver has 14 miles of scenic roads. But in effect, all it deals with is street trees and stone walls. So right now, if someone wants to cut down a tree that's in the right-of-way, it goes to the tree warden for a hearing. If it's on a scenic road, that comes to the planning board for that hearing to determine whether those trees should be cut down.
And stone walls
Stone walls.
particularly. I will read the list, but that's subject to change.
Oh, I can see 13 people, I don't want my road, I want my road, I don't want it. We're gonna have 13.
That's why we have the public hearing. But again, it's subject to street trees and existing
Stone walls.
stone walls.
We're just putting a placeholder, right?
On the placeholder,
Yeah,
but
so-
I'm gonna read the street list, although it is subject to change or alteration. Center Street, Cranberry Road, Crescent Street, Cross Street, Federal Road, Green Street, Holmes Street, Lakeview Street, Mayflower Road, Meadow Street, Old Center Street, Plymouth Street, Rochester Road, Savory Avenue, Shaw Road, Wareham Street, and Wenham Road. So the chair will accept a motion to approve a placeholder for town meeting.
So
For
moved.
scenic roads. Motion made by Mr. Gatsky.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Robinson. Do we have further discussion?
Just that there's a map, also real quick, goes with
Oh,
this.
yes.
And this map is from the actual open space and recreation plan, where they said, Carver has these scenic roads that were never voted in 2010.
Awesome.
The language in the open space plan says, and the town will be voting these things in 2010, but never did.
Awesome. All right.
It shows High Street, but it's not on the list. But again, subject to change. Motion was made by, or do I have
I
John
made the
Gasky.
motion.
G.G.
Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Gatsby and Mr. Robinson? Further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye. All right. The chair will accept a motion to approve a placeholder for town meeting for Article X8, delete from Carver zoning bylaw, expired moratorium session 4970, temporary moratorium on non-medical or recreational marijuana establishment. This moratorium shall be in effect through the moratorium itself was in effect from through June 30th of 2019. or until such time as the town adopts zoning bylaw amendments that regulate recreational marijuana establishment. Now, we've already approved those and the date has passed. So it's just taking up space on our, a considerable amount of space, if I remember correctly, in our zoning bylaws.
House cleaning.
So I will accept a motion for a placeholder to delete the expired moratorium, section 4970.
Makes that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Dion,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Gatsky. Do we have any further discussion?
Yes, sir.
Please.
For the record, you cannot make a moratorium that says, or until such time as the town adopts a zoning bylaw. Moratoriums are not open-ended. Moratoriums have this specific date. So whoever wrote this didn't know that. So you can't say, it's then until we get around to doing something about it. Date specific. That date was June 30th, 2019, so should be gone.
Right. Any further discussion? Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye. The board will vote to put a placeholder on the town meeting warrant for article, the chair will accept the motion to approve a placeholder on town meeting warrant for article X9, amend Carver zoning bylaw, section 3170, approval, increase from 1 year to 2-year lapse of site plan approval to be consistent with time allowed for special permits. To see if the town will vote to amend Carver zoning bylaw, section 3170, to increase from 1 year to 2 years lapse of site plan approval to be consistent with time allowed for special permits under section 5370.
So if I may.
Please.
So we have had a number of times an applicant has come in and asked for an extension on their site plan, although their special permit was still fine. So I'm recommending to the board to make them the same for 2 years. The state allows up to 3 years for special permits before they lapse. The board could go full 3 years, but since it's in the bylaw, it's 2 years right now. I thought making site plan and special permit would save the board and the applicants both some time in the future.
The board will accept a motion.
I'll make said motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson, seconded by Mr. Dion. Any further discussion? Seeing
Mr.
none.
Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye. The chair will accept a motion to approve a placeholder for town meeting warrant article X10, request to raise stipend for planning board members. This is coming at my request. I've been requested by members of the board to see about an increase in the stipend due to the fact that it's costing more to sit up here than what is allowed. Currently, it is $800. There's no number in here. We'll open it for discussion. But because of the requirements of this board, and that's having transportation, access to a phone, computer, and copy machines, and printers, and various other things, and this is open for discussion, I was looking to raise the stipend from $800 to $1,200. But currently, we're just asking to put a placeholder on town meeting warrant for Article X10, request to raise the stipend for planning board members.
Do you have what the other boards get, like conservation or school or zoning?
I have no idea, but I know that the requirements to do this job responsibly have become a burden to certain members of the board. And
I think the select board right now is currently at 1,000.
Yeah, but that's,
so,
I'm not sure, I think there's like 4 or 5 boards that get paid. I'm not sure who all, what any of the other ones
the,
get.
last year's town warrant, I'm pretty sure lists, as you go through each board, you can dig it up. Or the annual report.
I think the annual report does cover it, but, yeah, I
I mean, it would be
thought it
nice
was
to-
listed somewhere.
Yeah, if I may, typically there's an article, I can't say typically, but there have been articles in the past in towns I've worked in that address the stipends for board members. I don't know if it's been recently on Carver, but it's usually part of the budget.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, because when the budget gets voted, the budget has line items for those stipends in it, so it's part of the budget process typically.
All right. The chair will accept the motion to approve Article X10 as a placeholder for town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Gatsky,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Dion. Do you have further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
and Mr. Shea says aye. All right, next article is, the chair will accept a motion to approve Article XII. Consult planning board in the hiring of town planner and building commissioner. This is at my request. I feel that the,
Quick correction, I think we're looking at Article X11.
oh, X11, correct,
Yes,
not
Roman numbers.
XII. And this was done at my request. I feel the planning board should have some say in interviewing and making recommendations in regards to hiring the town planner and the building commissioner, as the building commissioner is our enforcement officer.
I'll make said motion.
Motion made by Mr. Dion,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Gatsky. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Just a quick question. So would, would we kind of clean this up to say that we were either looking to have the chairman sit in, or is it that we all would be
It was
part of
my
it?
thought that we would all be part of it, because as a group, I would think that everybody should have their, and we'll have to put some language to it, but then the board can make recommendations as to who they like the best, but that's not, doesn't mean that the town's gonna hire this person, that's just the recommendations of the board and the weight that that would carry.
If I may.
Please.
To Kevin's point, oftentimes hiring someone is not a public event. Because people who have jobs other places, they don't necessarily want someone to know they're looking for them. And sometimes they do, like, I'm going to
Sure.
look for another job unless you give me X. So if the entire planning board was to be part of that process, that would require a posted meeting to discuss an applicant. As far as the mechanics of that go, it would be unusual to have an entire board
Okay.
sit in on an application, because it would have to be a public meeting.
I see your point, because, yes, clearly some
Good.
people would have a job already and not want that to be public, so.
Like I said, sometimes people are like, yeah,
Sure.
that town I'm working for, they should know that I'm going somewhere else, and I'm going to Carver with a bullet.
Would that be on a screening committee, or when it gets to the, usually you have a screening committee and it's secret, but when you get to the finalists, it's public?
Yeah, when it's,
I mean, where would you fit in?
like I said, it typically during that hiring process, I'm not familiar with, in Falmouth, the chairman of the planning board attended the interview with the town planner, but wasn't allowed to ask any questions, was just there sort of as an extra set of ears.
I know about that.
And then when the final meeting, 3 senior members of the board were at that meeting, but it's a 7-member board, so it wasn't a quorum. So at no point during that process was there a public meeting about the potential hire.
I know that the previous chair was involved in the previous hiring
The
process.
previous chair, yes, he was, but I don't know if that's part of the bylaws or not, but I will look at some of the surrounding towns and come up with some language, but I see your point as to no more than one or two people from the board should be there in regards to that, because, again, I understand how sensitive it is to apply for another position when you currently have one. But currently, this is just a placeholder for a town meeting warrant for Article X11, and the chair will accept a
We got
motion.
a motion and a second on that.
Okay, we do have one.
RD moved, JG second.
All right. Further discussion? Mr. Dion?
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. I keep waiting for Alan. All right. The chair will accept a motion for Article, to put a placeholder for town meeting for Article X12. Increase percentage of affordable units to 20% to align with the transfer of development rights. A minimum of 20%, and this is from the TDR, a minimum of 20% of the housing units constructed in a receiving area that generated from the application of a TDR credits into the receiving area shall qualify as affordable housing for low and moderate income households, as per Massachusetts Chapter 40B regulations.
So if I can interject.
Please.
So on page 6 of 6, there are 3 sections of the bylaw that reference percentages of affordability, and I didn't know which section you were referring to, so.
I would put it in all three. I see affordable housing is currently 15%, inclusionary units, bonus units, 15%. Townhouse development is currently at 10%, and I haven't checked through conservation subdivision, but it would be to bring those into alignment of 20% affordable.
So section 2852 affordable housing, section 3030 inclusionary units, and section 3941 townhouse developments, all those would go to 20%.
Yes, and conservation subdivision, if that happens to fall under the 20% benchmark.
And I will make said motion.
Motion made by Mr. Robinson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gatsky. Do we have further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye.
Now, you're proposing 12 articles here, right? Do these require majority, 2/3 vote at town meeting, or are some of them different?
Changes,
Changes in zoning require a 2/3 vote unless that zoning is related to housing. Under the recent changes to the Massachusetts general law, a zoning amendment regarding housing is a majority plus 1 vote.
Make it easier to,
So it would be 2/3 to amend site plan, it would be 50% plus 1 to amend things regarding housing.
now, I know at town meeting, these are usually at the end. We've got 12. Conservation Commission, who knows what they come in, and that's why at the end of the meeting, people just go postpone, save it, goodbye, we'll come back. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, if I may, actually, I've been pretty happy the fact that Carver doesn't put them at the end. Kingston put them at the end, Falmouth put them at the beginning, and Carver puts them at the beginning, after the financial articles, typically they're in the
Town I went in, we had a lottery. They picked the articles out by lottery, so you couldn't pack the meeting.
There's been no shortage of machinations for how to deal with town meeting articles. So I know you guys are just about to adjourn, but I just wanted to say I cleaned up that copy of the special permit. I'm gonna get it off the printer and bring it back here for your signatures.
Do you have any further notes before?
I do not.
All right. Then we have planning board member notes. I personally want to wish everybody a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah. I believe it's Kwanzaa season too. We want to wish our best to Ms. Sordillo. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here with us tonight, and she might be missing a couple more meetings. But our support goes with her. Discussion, we have no minutes. And so the chair will accept a motion for adjournment.
Mrs. Dion says, no. I'll make said motion.
Motion for adjournment made by Mr. Dion,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Gatsky. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Dion.
Mr. Dion says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
And Mr. Shea says aye. Thank you very much and have a happy holiday.